Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to Houselights, our director discussion show here on the Nerd Party Network. Well, we all know that you were expecting us to have finished with the House of Emmerich, but no, we've added one more to our list as we're going to cover 2000's The Patriot. Because, you know, the millennium, we could flip that into the decade. It all sticks together. I'm Captain Darren Moser, and I'm joined again by my friends Corporal John Mills and Colonel, all beginning with the C, Tristan Riddell. There's battles to be fought, but I promise our discussion will follow the rules of podcasting as we discuss The Patriot. Because, boy, rules of engagement really become a thing in this Revolutionary War story.
Do they ever?
Wow.
What is gentlemanly war? Let's figure it out.
Oh, I honestly, I love some of those scenes. I love the parlay scene in the middle, because you just that would not happen nowadays. War is very different, but it makes sense. Like when he's maybe not that different, but the like when they talk about this is why you don't target officers, because then you have a ton of people running around without orders and they're probably going to do bad things. And that makes sense. But then I like how he's like, well, but some of your officers are also killing civilians. So, you know, I love the dialogue in that scene. It was really well done.
Also, I'm glad that you brought that up, Darren, because that's one thing that I feel like we need to talk about at the top of the show is that this is a movie. This is not a documentary.
You don't say.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it sucks that we have to say that nowadays, but it is true. This movie got a lot of heat for the inaccuracies, but not so much the inaccuracies, because so much is loosely based on actual events. I mean, obviously, like, yes, there was a Revolutionary War. Yes, there were, like General Cornwallis and everything like that. But, so much of it was amped up to 11 where, like, I mean, I'm surprised that they didn't give Jason Isaacs a mustache so he could twirl it.
Yes, he's the most black and white villain I've seen in a long time. Like, no redeeming qualities.
And there is no historical account of the British doing what they did in this movie. And so, yeah, that's a little rough when you're presenting a movie that is supposed to be taking place in an historical backdrop. But at the same time, it's a movie, it's fine. They tried to balance it out by saying that, like, oh, both sides did horrible things, but those poor British people, they're the mustache twirlers in our cinema,
and
that's why the Empire has British accents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and Benjamin Martin, Mel Gibson, I think he's a composite of like 4 people.
Yes,
and that's why I'm like, boy, everything is bad is happening to this guy. Well, yeah, because they took all the bad parts of 4 people's lives and strung them together in a fictional account. So, of course, he's having a very bad time. But
look, complaining about the historical accuracy of The Patriot is like complaining about the historical accuracy of another Mel Gibson film, Braveheart. And it's like, that's not how Scottish history happened. But, it gives you the right vibe, I guess. No. But and it's still a great film. Like, it doesn't matter. It is an odd line to walk, especially because I think that The Patriot comes along at a time when people are sort of reassessing how they present history on film, feeling more of an obligation to sort of present it as a little uglier. And I remember at the time
than fantastical.
Well, also, I think that I think this movie caught a little bit of both positive and negative buzz because of the fact that, like, the battle scenes they went a little Saving Private Ryan with things as opposed to the much more sanitized version of the reenactments that we're used to seeing, where people get shot and they fall down and it's always at a distance and we never see anything too gory.
Blown off. We saw
a guy's head get blown off. We saw gouts of blood flying everywhere. We saw people like in shock and stuff like that. We saw surgeries in the battlefield hospital. We're used to seeing that type of stuff with the Civil War, but not with the Revolutionary War. So
true.
I mean, let's at least give the movie credit for that. I remember actually at the time, wasn't there a little heat about it My memory is that there was a little bit of heat about about how graphic it was. I mean, it's tame by today's
There was a lot of
standards.
heat about a lot of things with this movie. It was
Yeah.
very
I think they
discussed.
employed like fake reviews and like paid people to like be on film saying how great it was and act like it was like a news segment kind of thing. It was pretty bad when it came, and Sony got all the heat for it, and actually I think reimbursed some people.
They did. They reimbursed, which I don't know how you would prove this, but they reimbursed like $5 each to people who say they saw the movie because of this fake review, which boggles my mind because there's no way that would happen nowadays. They'd be like, tough. You went and saw the movie. Your money's ours.
No, nowadays we'd call those people influencers, and we would just give them a ticket to the movie. That's all.
But those would be the influencers of 2000, which wasn't a thing because the internet wasn't really that fast. Probably to watch this trailer, you'd have to wait a good 30 minutes.
Yes.
But like to go back to the violence of it, like we can give credit to Roland Emmerich, who himself was just kind of like, they wanted to make it a PG-13 rating, which most studios do. Like when you have an action film, is because it can reach a wider audience. But Emmerich thought it would be disingenuous to kind of tone the violence down because of how graphic war actually is. And I think,
especially
like John,
in that era.
Especially in that era. And John, I think you kind of hit it on the head of how tame it is. And like, I actually had to look up if this was actually R, but then right when I was thinking that, some dude's legs got, blown off by a cannonball. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's R.
Yeah. It's
and they landed on the field in the shape of an R and you knew.
But
rating for the movie.
But I'll say that I remember specifically there was enough hubbub about how graphic it was that I saw it with my girlfriend at the time. And when we saw it, a dad came in, dropped off his two about 10-year-olds, his 10-year-old son and friend or something like that. But his kids were too young for a hard R, basically. And he dropped them off, turned around and walked out to go like watch a different movie.
To go see The Perfect Storm, I'm guessing.
Something like that. I don't know. And I remember that just put me in a mood immediately because like I just sat there and I was and like when I saw the cannonball take the guy's head off, I was like, even I have standards where I'm like, okay, even I think that's a little far for a 10-year-old to see.
Do you, John?
I kind of do. Listen, the whole thing with Executive Decision was an error. I thought it was PG-13. Please don't hold it against me.
So apparently Harrison Ford was offered this role.
Yeah.
And the role of Benjamin Martin, he said it was too violent. He's like, it's way too violent. And also it kind of boils down the Revolutionary War to one guy seeking revenge. And I was like, well, he's not wrong.
I was going to say, I'm like, that kind of is like, if I was making a poster, I'd put like one guy seeking revenge, ending the war. Like he's not wrong. At least in the story. Which,
country's birth, one man's revenge, the Patriot. There you go. You got your log line and everything.
Damn, that's nice.
Thank you.
Like, no joke. That is solid. Like, I'm surprised we haven't seen that.
Maybe I'll make a fan poster.
But it kind of makes sense narratively because of the Revolutionary War. We know, not that there aren't known battles of the Revolutionary War. We know the names of more battles from like the Civil War and other wars. Like so I can kind of understand them kind of, it's like where, they're deciding where do they place this? Like they have a little bit of the preamble where we're learning about starting the war, but we jump like 2 years into the conflict. So there's a lot of jumping around. But yeah, the Revolutionary War wasn't, obviously it had turning points, but you can't just only tell the story at the turning points. Like that's not a narrative of a single person. So they have to do, the amalgamation.
I think it was, it's always a little weird because the passage of time is kind of odd where it was, like Heath Ledger's character, Gabriel, said that he's been a soldier for 2 years.
Right.
And that's when he hooks back up with the family. So I'm like, okay, so it's 1778.
And then the slave was in, Mel Gibson's battalion for a year because he gains his freedom.
So that had to have been in 1779, maybe 1780.
Maybe a little bit overlap.
Yeah. And then the French came in 1781.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how
it
went
roughly
down.
tracks. It's
it was at least in order.
Yeah.
Okay, we can give
It
them.
wasn't
We can
like
give them
10
credit
years
for that.
later, we're like,
Right.
whoa. How long did you think this war went?
But you mentioned the slave who enlists, and that's one thing where I will give this movie credit for the fact that it at least addresses it. I know it doesn't address it in the same way that Glory does with the Civil War,
Right.
but it at least presents the idea that there were people like this amalgamation character, and there were people like this where they got into that war and they were like, oh yeah, and we'll get rid of slavery when we do that too. Like there were people where they did believe that was the next logical step of what was going to come.
Starting a new world, a
Right.
new government, we can do whatever, and
so it's like there's
We'll
a part
totally
of me
do it in the next 100 years, guys. Just hold on. We'll totally do it.
Well, I mean, we managed to fight our own civil war less than 100 years later. So it's like,
That's what I was referencing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know, but I'm just like at the very least, this movie, and there's no perfect way to deal with the topic, none whatsoever.
It's so difficult because, like slavery was a Holocaust, and when you deal with something that massive, it's so hard. And I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, folks, so know where I'm coming from. When you deal with something that massive and tragic and monumental, that becomes the story. That becomes the story because it is so important to tell. And so if that's not the story you want to tell, it kind of becomes a footnote.
I see.
And
you had to have it be one character represents slavery in this story because that's not the story they want to tell.
Right. Otherwise, you need to have an entire subplot with a group of characters and have like a whole second, like a whole act would have to deal with it. And flesh that out even more. And while it's a light touch, I think that the movie, at least by addressing it and showing the way Donal Logue's character evolves, like that's, it's a little too Hollywood, but at the same time,
it's very sanitized. Yeah.
But again, I mean, to the point we're all talking about, it's like, how else could they have possibly addressed it? They couldn't ignore it, because if they ignored it, then that's even worse. And the movie wasn't about that, so you can't have it take up the whole narrative. Right. So the only way you can do it is be like, okay, we'll have an amalgamation character that deals with the topic at least through the course of the film.
And we're not gonna lie, like this movie is definitely it's made for Americans to feel good about being Americans. Like the very end when he's like, I am honored to be fighting by you. He might have been, but we spent a good 30 seconds on that because we're going to do that. And we're going to, the slow-mo carrying the flag. Like it's,
my patriotism got rock hard every single time that I saw that flag in slow motion. Oh my gosh.
I'm glad you mentioned slow motion, because we all know how touchy I am about it. And there are certain moments where the slow motion really works well. And there are other moments where the slow motion lasts for like 2 seconds and it's just to like stretch out a moment. And it annoyed the hell out of me. There was
real slow motion and then there was fake slow motion.
Yeah.
And the fake slow motion was to stretch a moment. And the biggest offender was Jason Isaacs at the end, right before his death.
Yes.
When he said something like, I guess it seems ... you weren't the better man ...
Right.
Yeah.
That was
30
all
seconds to
like
say
it was
that
it was a
line.
long, like that was clearly ADR because Jason Isaacs was in the booth reading that line, because I think like on the day, I think you read it as, it's clear you are not the better man. Like that's how he said it. But then they manipulated the film to slow it down because they realized
he slowed it way down,
which I think was the best move. But it's also, when you're watching it, I watched it on 4K disc. And so when you're seeing that on a huge TV on 4K disc, you see every single moment of fake slow-mo blaring.
Well, let me ask you this question, though, because with the 4K, is it a good remastering? Because we were talking about this off mic, where like, is this a movie where visually you think the 4K is worth going for? Let's bake that into this conversation.
I've watched the Blu-ray and I've watched streaming, and I've watched the 4K disc. It's interesting because the Blu-ray is very good. Like it's a solid transfer. I even bought this on DVD and thought it was a good transfer. And so there are moments when you have a close up of Mel Gibson, or like some of the standing still shots are really sharp and look really cool. But some of the motion gets a little messy. But other than that, I don't. The colors are really nice, but I don't think the HDR really makes it pop. I think it's a good Blu-ray transfer. It's an okay 4K HDR transfer.
Now, I mean, I haven't seen the 4K. I saw it in the theater, and I rewatching it now. I don't know that just as a visual baseline, I was blown away by the photography in it. There are moments that I thought were
nominated.
It did.
I think it did. I think it got nominated for cinematography.
It did get nominated, but it also won the American Society of Cinematographers Award. Like it won for astounding achievement in cinematography. So you're wrong, John.
No,
this movie's gorgeous.
But the thing is, it could have been the compression I was watching because I was streaming it. So that's one of those things where it's like, because that's why I was sort of like asking, because I was like, there were moments where the lighting seemed off, but obviously it's got to be the edition that I watched.
Your version, yeah.
What moments felt off to you?
There were a couple of interior moments that felt a little too brightly lit. And they usually involve the family, like the daughters and stuff like that. And so the lighting seemed a little bit too overhead and a little bit too white for candlelight.
But the candlelight scenes weren't realistically done. I mean, they weren't realistically done at all.
But there was one in specific where like the light sourcing from above, number one, was puzzling because it was like a dark-ish room and there was a lot of orange light around them. And then there was like white light coming down from somewhere above, and they weren't like outside in a moonlit.
Are you talking about like
anything?
when he was putting the two youngest girls to bed?
Maybe it was that scene. Yeah,
because the lighting was very weird in that scene.
Okay, so maybe I just fixated
totally
on that
should have
thing.
been rejected from all the awards for that scene.
Okay, listen here, wise ass.
Where your cinema is still leaning towards visibility being a paramount. We haven't quite like it's 2000, so we're kind of slowly shifting into. I want that nighttime realistic.
The natural
you can't
light,
see anything, but it's realistic. And then people are like, "But I can't see anything," Versus there's always a full moon in the sky somewhere to see where we're going.
I'm doing a rewatch of The Walking Dead with my wife, and every single night scene has a full moon. It's insane. Like, not only is it fully lit, the zombies
came about, the moon stopped spinning around the earth.
There you go.
But not only is it like fully lit, but like they show you the moon. Like they have a shot of the moon, and it's always
never crescent.
It's never crescent.
Well, it's just so they can excuse the lighting. But no, I think honestly, the version I was watching, just the conditions weren't great because overall, like I didn't have a problem with it, but there were just these weird sections like in the swamp and stuff like that. And so I think maybe the compression was just messing with me on streaming.
Outstanding achievement in cinematography by the American Society of Cinematographers.
I don't know how much you want me to qualify this. All right. Do you want me to say it was streaming again? There you go. It was streaming. All right. There you go.
Well, so that's the visuals. Let's talk about the music because guys, it's not Arnold.
Arnold was a little pissed.
Yeah, I read in a note that apparently he had some sort of composite that they tried like a demo and they rejected it. And as a result, he never returned and did any further Emmerich movies. Like he was Emmerich's guy. He did, what was it? I think at least Godzilla, Independence Day, and Stargate. And so for this one, it's John Williams.
It is funny though, because I have this imaginary conversation in my head where Emmerich is talking with Arnold. And he says, he's like, I gave you a good demo. That's a good demo. We've done so many movies together, Emmerich. And he goes, we have enough money for John Williams.
Bye.
And Arnold goes, right. You know what? Screw you.
Yeah,
and he slams the door and walks out.
I will say that I don't think this is a great John Williams score. There's a lot of stuff that I found interesting because going forward from 2000, there were definitely cues from certain soundtracks I've listened to an awful lot where I was like, oh, I see him working out that theme right there. Oh, he's working out that cue right there. And I can hear where it's going to come. And it's good work, but it's not great work. This is not John Williams flexing. This is John Williams giving you a score. This is not John Williams swinging for the fences, in my opinion.
I can't argue with that, but at the same time, I love the theme. I think this is very good.
The theme itself is
theme.
Good.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because I can hum it in my head right now, and I can't do that with every movie, but I can definitely do that with this one. And I think even Obama, like after Obama did his acceptance speech in Chicago, they played this theme as he walked off the stage.
I'm sure they did. I'm just saying again, overall.
We're like Darren and I are presenting the credentials of why you're right.
No.
I'm just saying overall. I'm saying like certain.
I will say I do agree with John. I think it is it is a decent score, but it is definitely not Williams like top 10. I'm not saying he phoned it in. It's just, but I think I see what you're saying, John.
Like if I listen to other stuff from the time, Phantom Menace is the year before. We got Amistad. We got Schindler's List a few years before. We got Jurassic Park. Like that's Williams showing up and being like, hi, I'm John Williams. Let me remind you who I am. And this is John Williams coming in and saying, yeah, okay, I know how to do this. And like you said, giving a good theme, right? I would say that he is one of the, just absolute masters of making a theme that's really strong. But then when he gets to the interior stuff, it's like, it's good. It's better than most, but it's not great. And that's not a knock per se. Like to be like, well, the maestro didn't give you his 9th overture here. He just gave you his 7th overture. It's like, it's still better than most of the scores you're going to get. I would be curious to hear what Arnold put together.
I really want to hear that too. Yeah. I wish we could hear that stuff.
That'd be cool. That'd be very
Which
cool.
is funny.
But yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I did kind of in the beginning because I didn't look it up, so I assumed it was Arnold because again, why would it not be? It's his next film, and so there were maybe I was skewed just because I thought it was Arnold, but there were some parts where I was like, oh, that had a little bit of an Independence Day sound, which isn't surprising because this is Independence Day, 1778. That's like that's horns and drums and it's the pieces. Of course, it's going to sound loosely similar to parts of that, but it's so I'm going to give it 5 stars right there. John Williams score. It's all I need to pull it all together.
What we haven't really talked about, which is what we usually talk about first, is the cast.
Yes,
and what a cast this was. Mel Gibson, Heath Ledger, Jolie Richardson, Jason Isaacs, Chris Cooper, Chiki Cario, Renee Aubergenois, Tom Wilkinson, Donald Logue, Leon Rippey, Adam Baldwin, J. Arlen Jones, and Joey D. Vieira. Holy crap.
I did love, because again, I noticed this more watching, a director's works in order. It makes you notice some characters and you're thinking less like, oh, look, it's so-and-so. It's more like, of course it's so-and-so. They were there 2 movies ago. Like we just had Independence Day not that far along, and we had Adam Baldwin. So of course he's some guy in the crowd with a wig on. So, but yeah.
And Leon Rippey, I think, has been a constant.
Leon Rippey is a mainstay for an Emmerich picture. Yeah. And it was good to see him because I think they gave him a really good role this time.
When I think Leon Rippey, I think this movie.
And the scene where he takes his own life after his family.
Oh,
I mean, just so well done. Just so well done. Like I actually believed him. I think you're right. Like now when I think of Leon Rippey, this will be the film I think of because he inhabits the character so completely that you actually feel so deeply for him in that moment. And it's like, that I think we can all agree that's a hallmark of Emmerich is he gets terrific supporting performances. And that's no small feat. That's not an easy thing to do. It would have been very easy, especially with where Gibson was with his career, for the director to come in and be and like just falling over the star, focus on the star. We're going to get you your Oscar. But there's much more a sense of somebody saying to everybody, we're going to make the best film we can, as opposed to being a star vehicle. And I think everybody benefits from it as a result.
Well, and Renee as the minister, of course, I instantly think of his role as Mulcahy in the original MASH. I'm like, man, they just peg you as the minister.
Full circle.
And over. But I love that little scene where he takes off his wig and he's like, sometimes you shepherd the flocks and sometimes you have to fight, the wolves at the door. And it's like, you messed up. The preacher's getting his gun.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
man,
then
I want to write a book with that title. The Preacher's Getting His Gun.
But I mean, I immediately think, but then who's holding services while he's away?
I thought about that this time too. Like when he left, I was just like in like the father, the Howard, the guy by Joey Vieira. When he said, he's like, like father? He's like, yeah. And he gives that line. As he was walking away, I'm just like, do they have like an associate pastor or like, what are they?
I'm picturing the associate pastor now being like, so service is pause for the foreseeable future. You know what? We're just going to do Mark again. Everybody loves Mark. Mark chapter 1 next Sunday.
We're going to use it. We're going to use it as a meeting hall. The Brits actually just sent a note over. They want to meet. So, come on. What a horrible scene that is. Horrible scene.
Yeah.
What? Oh, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, why are you booing me? I'm right. Okay.
So this movie, if there was ever a definition of melodrama,
yes,
it would be this movie. I like it. I like the melodrama in this. I get teary-eyed at all the right moments. I do. I've seen this movie a bunch of times. Darren, this was a Riddell family favorite. And
it says a lot.
And so
I believe it.
So like Mel Gibson has one of his sons die at the beginning, and then his house burns down. And then his kids look at him like he's a monster. His youngest daughter won't talk to him.
His wife already died. Like before
his wife
any of this.
Already died. And then he has to go to war. And then his eldest son dies in front of him. His other son died in front of him too. And then his son's wife dies.
Son got married. Happy day.
There you go. There you go. It's just like, so all of this happens. And then like John Billings, a close friend of his, his wife and son dies. Then John Billings shoots himself in the head. And you're just like, oh my God. Like the audience, if this movie wasn't a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, the audience wouldn't have any time to rest and reset from all of the tragedy.
He's getting Mild O'Brien, like hard. Just all the bad things are happening to him.
Yeah, I think that might be one of my issues with the movie is that it's a little much in those terms. The inciting incident of one son dying, great in terms of storytelling. Okay, I get why this guy has snapped and he's gone off the deep end and all of that stuff, and it spurs him into action, and he doesn't want to be involved, but now he's going to be involved because this time it's personal. Second son getting injured, like grievously injured, but making it through feels like a stronger decision because it still gives us that moment to pause and say, it almost cost me my son. He's never going, whatever you want to do, he's going to lose his leg. He's going to, his life is altered forever because of this war that we brought on ourselves when I was saying we should just talk and, beg the king for X, Y, and Z. You can still have that moment. And then the son can say to it's just, it is so much to process. And I think that it is so much to process that at a certain point, there's like a sense of fatigue about it where it's like, oh, okay, this terrible thing also happened. Oh, another terrible, like there's only so much you can take in and empathize with. Whereas like big moments, especially anybody who's a dad, when the daughter who won't talk to him runs, it's daddy, don't go. Like that's a killer scene.
I'll say anything you want as long as you don't leave.
Yeah, as long as you don't leave. Like bang, that's fantastic.
No,
right?
tears.
Tears,
folks.
Right in there. And so I think there is that sense of it is a bit much because even though we know that there's a passage of time, it doesn't feel like as much of a passage of time. It
feels like a week.
It's weird because I know that time has passed, but I don't feel the time has passed the way that it should. It doesn't flow as organically. And I think it's because we have so many tragic stopping points along the way.
Maybe because they never hit winter. Like it was always like perpetual summer, spring. Like
we did.
If they had shown
see
like
one winter.
Did we? I remember the sun did. The sun was writing a letter during winter.
Gabriel
but I
was writing
Mel
a letter.
Gibson going through winter.
No. But I think if we got one more winter, yes, I think
winter,
that would have helped.
But no, I think as you were describing it, John, which totally makes sense. Again, the fatigue of like them just piling it on. I feel like they kind of had to because they wanted that moment at the end where he gives up and sees the flag and comes back. If you don't care about that moment and reshaping it, then it makes, I would much rather preferred, like his son is hurt, but the wife isn't like burned in the church. And like, but like if you have to, you push past the inciting incident pain and you have to pile it on to the breaking point pain where he's like, I'm done. Like it took everything from me and he backs away. And which again, that's how the story went. But that's the vibe I'm getting is they're like, we have to push it so hard because he has to stop and give up. He has to give up. And if we don't pile up enough, people won't believe that he would give up at this point.
There's a part of me then that says that maybe instead having it constructed in such a way that the son dies showing up in the nick of time to save the wife who's trapped in the burning church, right? Like sort of bring those moments all together. I think it makes just for a cleaner arc. And it winds up, I think, alleviating a lot of that fatigue because you get to, I just think the movie is too long. What solves that outside of restructuring?
I think also, and this isn't a negative, but it's a choice. This movie is focused around a single person. So everything touches him in some way or is affected by him. If this had been instead like a father-son movie and the son was like at his hip the entire time, like the entire movie. And so you can disperse the pain a little between the two instead of just heaping it on one person. I don't know, maybe that would have balanced it. But I think we're all on the same page that there was a lot. And like you said, Tristan, the movie being so long help you have those moments of reprieve because there was more coming. It just kept piling on.
I feel like if this was a 2-hour movie or like a 2-hour 15 movie, we wouldn't need Thomas dying at the beginning. Just have Benjamin, like have Gabriel captured at the beginning. And Benjamin's house is burning down. And he's like, okay, we have to go rescue your brother.
Right. If we don't act right now, your brother is dead.
And then that would make Gabriel dying the moment that made him quit. I feel like you could excise Thomas dying and still have the inciting incident at the 30-minute mark, which I love it when long movies to have the inciting incident at the 30-minute mark. I know that's really like esoteric, but it's
because it's not like we need more to believe that Isaacs is a bad guy. Like he is a bad guy. They're not going for the redemption arc at all. It is definitely the bad guy.
I'll say Isaacs I enjoy because he is that over the top villain and it's fitting with the melodrama. But there is a scene that I love where Cornwallis is talking to him and he's telling him to rein it in because he says, he basically says, regardless of how this works out, we have to keep trading with these people afterward.
Right.
If you're an absolute monster, we have to kill all of them then. And it's like, we need this industry to continue sending stuff back to England after this. So, it's like we're going to win.
Your conduct reflects on me because I'm your commanding officer. All of his speeches were great, like really well done.
Tom Wilkinson makes everything better.
True.
And him as Cornwallis was just fantastic, especially those conversations, because I would have liked it a little bit more if, Cornwallis, like John, like you were talking about, Cornwallis tells Tavington to rein it in for all the right reasons. Because that's the thing, is that like the British saw this as a rebellion. Like they're trying to squash the rebellion. They didn't really want to see this as a war. They're
We even
just like,
said,
no,
like, I don't see this as a prisoner of war. It's a traitor. And it's like, well, but you're also at a state of war, so he's not a traitor. It's a war.
Yeah, and those are fundamentally different viewpoints when it came to this. And so, like, the British soldiers were highly trained and highly disciplined and, you know, like, generally followed orders. Yeah, of course, atrocities happened. It's war, but the stuff like the church burning didn't happen during the Revolutionary War. And so the mentality would have been much closer to Wilkinson than Isaac's. And I think we see Wilkinson, like, okay, when Tavington like rushed the center at the end of the movie before he was told to, when he charged before he was told to, and Cornwallis says, "Damn that man, damn him." We needed more of that. Isaac's needed to be more of a loose cannon, and that's why I didn't like the scene where he needed to be more of a rogue, because I didn't like the scene where he goes to Cornwallis and says, "Tell me about Ohio." You know, like it's like he went to Cornwallis and asked his permission to go crazy. He should not have gone to the general and asked to go crazy. He should have just gone crazy. And Wilkinson hated it.
Just as a side note, spoiler warning for Tavington, you might have wanted to bargain for a different state. Just saying.
Oh, I knew you were going to make that joke. I knew you were going to make that joke. And now all of our listeners in Ohio are going to hate us, or they're going to root us on, because I've met a lot of people who live in Ohio who hate living in Ohio. For the record, just for the record, I actually love Ohio. I've taken 2 vacations in Ohio that on the water, and they've been phenomenal. Who doesn't want to take a leave in the Cleve? We all want to. Okay. But yeah, also Chris Cooper, Colonel Harry Burwell.
Oh, Chris Cooper. Hit it on the head. Was not like too friendly, like the best friend, but like they're war buddies, but he's also his commanding officer. Like he just acted the hell out of that scene. Like I loved Chris Cooper in this.
He's great as an understated type. He's and I think he's very notable in this because in a sea of melodrama, he's a calm ship of naturalistic acting.
You're right.
It's like I can true. I like seeing him float along because I'm like, okay, I can calm down for a couple of seconds here. Nice.
Like, okay, I know, somebody normal.
Like they'll run up and be like, "Oh no, something's happened." He's like, "Well, but we're having a meeting right now, Bob. We got to plan what we're doing next." Like it's just, I'm in a war. What are you talking about? Yeah.
He's like, I'm not an orator.
Melodrama.
Yeah,
but let me give you a very, very well thought out speech. But no, it's true. Yeah.
I think that the one who probably gets lost a lot in the shuffle here, which is unfair, I think, is Jolie Richardson. And
thankless role, absolutely thankless role.
But so good. She's so good, and I who doesn't love Jolie Richardson?
I have such a soft spot for her. She's great in everything she does.
But she is, you're right. It's a thankless role. She's a great steady anchor character. She inhabits the role. You believe in her gentleness, in her care, in her love for the family, in her willingness to protect them. And it's so key because he's not believable as all of those things. The scene when Isaac shows up looking for them, there's no tension to it, right? But there's tension to it because she convinces you to be afraid of what's going on right now. And I think that is why that scene works as well as it does. And I think that, she deserves more credit. I think that she also I would have liked to see more screen time for her, more time with her and Gibson in favor of a couple of other things, because I saw where their arc was going from the beginning, but I would have liked a little more time with them, a little more time to bring Benjamin out of his shell and finally pull him out of his mourning.
More letters or something.
That would be a great way to do it. You are absolutely right. That would have been a great way to do it. Yeah.
Like there's a lot of implied history because she's his sister-in-law, but it's something a little more. I think you're right, John.
I did love that moment where it was a little unspoken, where she just kind of turns to him and says, "I'm not her." He goes, I know. like it's such a beautiful but honest moment. It was so honest.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, like I'm a big Nip Tuck fan, so seeing Jolie Richardson is always a plus for me.
Let's talk about Heath Ledger for a second, which also watching Heath Ledger die, especially in a post Heath Ledger world, is semi-traumatic because he was taken from us far too early. But yeah, again, I felt he blended into the role pretty well. It's hard not to see Heath Ledger, like it is Heath Ledger the entire time. But no, I think he had the right amount of youthfulness. Because again, he's not 17 or whatever the age was of the character, but he played it well. I liked that part of the performance.
I think that he at this point is still in like his early Brad Pitt part of his career, and this is right around like Legends of the Fall Brad Pitt stage, where it's getting a little more epic, it's getting a little more serious. He's not just a pretty face, but he's also, oh, hey, the kid can act sort of thing. And I think that's the stage that he's going into right here. And so it's refreshing to revisit that part because he, of course, matured very quickly into an incredible screen presence. And, but this is, I think this is a very important role for him in terms of the development of his career. And to your point, yes, he's good enough in this role. He's not the Heath Ledger we all think of at this point, but you can see where he's headed. And I think that Emmerich gets a good performance out of him.
Well, he almost gave up acting because this is post 10 Things I Hate About You, which came out in 1999. And for a year, the only roles that he was offered were teen heartthrob, pieces in movies. And he just didn't want to do that. He didn't want that to be his career. And what sucks is because in 10 Things I Hate About You, he played, Patrick Verona, and he did it so well. It's such a fantastic movie that, like, it's no wonder that people are like, oh, no, yeah, you should do this. But then he got Gabriel Martin. And then right after that, he got the lead in A Knight's Tale. And if anyone who hasn't seen A Knight's Tale, don't even finish listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Go and watch A Knight's Tale.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. I'll be bowing out at this point because Tristan just told me I have to stop recording and go watch A Knight's Tale.
No, you're supposed to say, welcome back, listeners who just watched A Knight's Tale.
There you go.
Welcome back,
I know
listeners.
You came back to hear our ratings. Thank you for not forgetting us like Tristan suggested you do.
But yeah, like right after he got the lead in Knight's Tale, he did an amazing performance in Monsters Ball. So like, yeah, it's just, I had the opportunity of being a huge fan of his since 97 because he was in a short-lived TV show called Roar, which it takes place in Scotland. And I think it has 13 episodes, but only aired like 8 or 10. And it got canceled. It was on Fox, so it got canceled pretty quickly. But it's I was a huge fan of his ever since. I was like when 10 Things came out, I was just like, oh, the dude from Roar. And when Patriot came out, I was like, oh, the dude from 10 Things. And then it was like when A Knight's Tale came out, oh, the dude from The Patriot. Yeah, it's just he is so fantastic.
I too could look up IMDb in my youth, Tristan. So don't worry.
And also, say what you will about Mel Gibson, that son of a bitch can emote.
Oh, Mel Gibson was great in this. Like
listen. Gibson is a treasure as an actor.
As an actor,
I don't care about
fantastic.
I don't care. I don't care whatever. Blah blah blah. Whatever else.
And like, we don't really talk about that on this show. We don't. Like, there's so many times we'll talk about I really like that on this show. We talk about the performance. We talk about the director's vision and what they brought to the performance because you could go on and on about all that stuff, but we don't.
Yeah. No, I think that his performance. At this point, he's just comfortable in these types of roles. And it is always amazing to me how well he can convey internal conflict just with his facial feature, manipulation and the absolute control that he has of not only his face, but his entire body to convey that barely contained rage in certain scenes or the absolute gut-wrenching heartache of a dad who's losing a son or something like that. And he really brings it and really he really powers this movie in a large way. In the point that you mentioned Harrison Ford was offered this role originally. I don't think Ford pulls this off the same way. Doesn't take anything away from Ford. I don't see Ford doing this.
All right.
We're all just taking a moment of silence for that joke.
We all love Mel Gibson. Before we do our Lance Reddicks, I wanted us to kind of just circle around on, again, where we see Emmerich. Now we're past Godzilla. We're kind of returning to more traditional, movie making. I think you nailed it early on, talking about how he always he does great with ensembles and pulling all those little pieces, which, again, looking back at Godzilla, actually a semi-smaller cast, like not nearly as big, at least as this one, with main players. So Tristan, where do you see Emmerich? Do you think this is a return to form after Godzilla, and is going to propel him in the new millennium?
Well, it's really interesting because, as I was watching it, I knew you were going to ask that question. I was just like, where do I see Emmerich in this? And honestly, I don't see a lot of Emmerich in this.
Nope.
Like, as I was watching this, I was like, there is no way in blue perfect hell that Emmerich and Devlin wrote this. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, they really didn't write this. The guy who wrote Saving Private Ryan wrote this. And I was like, that tracks. There was way too many good lines in this in order for Emmerich and Devlin to write it. And also he didn't have the same cinematographer, he didn't have the same composer. He didn't have the same cinematographer. He didn't have the same writer. And so honestly, I think that's the only thing that we can really say is that he got a great ensemble cast and he got great performances out of them. Yeah.
I see in this a director who is given a second chance after a monumental disaster where they put a lot of guardrails around him and they say, okay, let's just prove you can get this thing off the ground and you're going to manage the right budget. You're going to make this, we got a big star at the center. We've got a big ensemble cast. We've got names here. Let's rein it in and let's see what you can do when we provide you the tools and the toolkit to put the movie together that we want. That's where he's successful. That's where I see Emmerich, quote unquote, is somebody who's working at scale successfully, because not everybody can. So this proves at the very least that he can put together a big budget film without it going sideways and without it being simply a sci-fi movie. He's proving himself here.
Because I'm looking at and again, I need to stop using Wikipedia for my budgeting and box office because it always combines it. It doesn't show, and knowing the difference between domestic, especially these older films, because Godzilla was like at the high end, a $350 million for $380 box office, which is pretty decent. But then Patriot, they pared it back down to 110 million and it made 215. So like doubled its budget. So not barely. Yeah, it's definitely not the runaway success. I think what I say earlier, Perfect Storm, I think ate a lot of its lunch.
But keep in mind, doubling your budget with a 3-hour movie. That's still an achievement. And also getting some of the critical acclaim, if you get
Oscars.
enough of the right type of critical acclaim and nominations that can
do I have to talk about the cinematography again, John?
Stop it.
The best.
You got two things you can bring the studio: money and prestige. If you can bring both, like Nolan can, that's jackpot. Yeah. If you can only bring one of them, you're Wes Anderson. If you can only bring box office, you're Roland Emmerich. But this one, he got both. Michael Bay too. Yeah.
Well, no, and like you said, it was giving him a second chance. And while we won't be going into it, I just glanced forward to Day After Tomorrow, which was 125 million, 550 million box office. Like that
movie made 550 million.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that movie
has to be worldwide.
So hard.
I was physically angry leaving that movie.
Yeah,
because we're rounding third. We don't have time for me to go into all the problems I have with The Day After Tomorrow. Right. Screw that movie.
Not the year 2000 something. We're back in the 1700s. All right. So
I do want to say though,
Reddick,
before we get to Lance Reddick, I do want to say that Caleb Deschanel was the cinematographer, And Gibson must have really liked working with him on The Patriot because he got him as the cinematographer for The Passion of the Christ. And that I can really see. Like when you compare those two movies, I can really see Deschanel's presence there. I just wanted to throw that out there before we got to our Lance Reddick.
House of Deschanel next week here on House. No.
Yeah. And just as a parting shot about like, oh, where do we see Emmerich? I see the director I wish he had continued growing into with this. I would have preferred him to stay in this sort of zone instead of going to The Day After Tomorrow, which is where I tapped out. I'm
chasing
BC
that
or 2012 or not. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Screw it.
You're not wrong. All right. Well, I'm going to go first with my Lance Reddick. It's a little tricky historically to find a good spot.
I had to do blind casting with my pick.
Well, I almost did blind casting. What I went with the character of Dan Scott. And Dan Scott is the guy who at the end says, I'm proud, to serve with, alongside you to the slave that became a free man. And I thought, okay, well, what if you take that role and instead of just the bigot, the racist guy, because it's very stereotypical. What if instead it's like another black person that has a different experience and they're also, not enjoying the process. So I don't know. It is hard to not blind cast, but I placed it as that role. It was a small role, but as we say, anything we add Lance to is just gold. So where did you blind cast him, Tristan?
I did him replacing Jason Isaacs as Tavington.
Oh,
fascinating.
Okay. He would have made an amazing Tavington. I feel like he would have just been such a great mustache twirling villain. I've seen him do some comedy skits where he plays an overly villainous character, and I think he could do it in a serious tone.
Right.
So with blind casting, of course, I would have loved to have seen him as the main bad guy.
Wow.
Curious.
All right. What about you, John?
I would have actually cast him as the French major.
Okay.
Because it would have been a very pointed moment as well when he berates the racist Donal Logue. And, because Donal Logue makes a comment about the slave, and to have, a black Frenchman sitting there and be like, hey, idiot, shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, and just illustrate the fact that like different cultures had different experiences. And I think it would have worked really, really well, which of course, usual disclaimer, this doesn't take anything away from Cheeky Cario.
Mm-hmm. Cheeky Cario.
Yeah. He was great. He was terrific. I loved him in the role, but I
love him in everything.
I think it would have been an interesting layer to have a black Frenchman there berating an American colonist for his attitude about racial differences.
What?
Honorable mention, I would have put him as
Paradise. Sorry, I was just looking at his filmography and I'm like,
I honorable mention. I think he would have made a good Reverend Oliver, Rene Auberjonois character. I think that he could do that one too. Anyway,
that would have worked.
Neither here nor there. He could do anything. He could do all these roles at the same time, and I would watch that movie.
Yes.
All right. So I think we've hit final thoughts. We've hit our Lance Reddick. So rounded out, John, what are you giving The Patriot 24 years later after its release?
I will say flat out that I enjoyed this much more than I did when I saw it years ago. A lot more. I still think it's not a great movie, but I think it's a good movie. And it pushes a little over, and I do believe in half stars, so I will use one. And it's one of those things where it's kind of firmly a 3, but that scene where the daughter says, "Daddy, don't go. I'll say anything you want." 3.5, purely on the power of that scene. So the Patriot redeems himself and gets a 3.5, and we can end our time in the House of Emmerich on an up note as opposed to with Godzilla.
Right. Yeah. We're going to say Godzilla is not statistically significant, and we're going to take it out of our curve because it's a little bit of a dip. All right, Tristan, how many bonus points did Daddy I'll Say Anything give you?
I unabashedly love this movie. I rewatch this movie routinely. This is not just a Riddell family favorite. This is a Tristan Riddell family favorite. I still get misty at at least 3 points during this movie. Do I get misty while I'm watching it? And I sent you guys, I don't know if you guys watched it, but I sent you guys the trailer to this movie, and it's so early 2000s. It's perfect, but I still get goosebumps at it. Because it's so like there's so many great one-liners when he's like, like, before the end of this war, I'm going to kill you, and you're like, like Gabriel saying, I'm not a child, and he goes, you're my child. I love this movie. I believe in half stars as well, and that is why I'm giving it 4.5 stars. This is a great movie. Love it.
Wow.
Patriotism.
Gotta find that decimal point. Yeah. No, this one I don't occasionally watch, so I don't think I've seen it since the early 2000s. I was one of those that went to see Perfect Storm instead, so I didn't catch it for a while until home video. But for me, the biggest difference is the last time I saw it was pre-kids. So yeah, all of the kid. I mean, it's a father movie. It's not just a hero movie. It's about a father and his family and going through all this terribleness in war. So yeah, all those parts, I was just like, it was very easy. And I'll give this to Emmerich. I'll give this to everybody for Mel's acting, but also for Emmerich's direction, that when he's doing those touching scenes, like, I can place my kids in those roles and I can see those moments and be like, oh man, I would just be crushed. Or like, I mean, it's not just that 2 of his sons die. They die in his arms, which is like 10 times worse. It's not like, here's a letter, I got to tell you about something bad that happened over that hill. It's like, no, you're literally there for like, oh, I think we were all, if I had been in the theater, I'm sure the theater experience would have been when Isaacs was like playing dead and he's coming closer to him. We're like, no, just no. We see it. It was so telegraphed that like this is not going to go well.
It's like it's like a Robert De Niro in it was a Cape Fear. I can't remember what it was, but he's just like smoking in the theater. He's like he's just like yelling at the screen. Right. It's like all of us going, "Don't do it! Don't get close!"
Right, just shoot him again from 20 paces. Just don't get within sword stabbing.
Reload distance. From a distance. Jeez.
But all that together, return to form for Emmerich. I'm going to give him a 4, I think, and on a high note. And I mean, I'm looking at his whole decade. I see, for me, lots of 5s. It's 5s and 2s and a 4. So it's like good or eh.
Oh, we seem to forget Moon 44, don't we, Darren?
Oh, I did forget Moon 44. You're right. That was
how strange. How strange you forgot Moon 44.
I did forget. You're the one who made us do Moon 44.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I had already forgotten it, and now you reminded me. Thank you for putting that back in my memory.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what I do.
All right. Well, this time for reals, we are exiting the burned down House of Emmerich. No, a little too on the nose. The House of Emmerich, as we've been getting to cover his amazing work of the 90s. Yeah, again, one of those directors that I never put a name on, until doing this kind of a podcast. But yeah, it's really fun getting to go through his pieces year by year. So that's it for reals this time with the end of Roland Emmerich of the 90s, this house here on Houselights. Next week, we're changing houses to stone biopics with 1991's The Doors. Open it here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.